Hey guys, it's Amy. Welcome back to Too Blessed. Today I wanted to share something with you that's a little bit different than what I've shared on my channel before. I've been trying to share some videos, let you guys kind of get to know me, sharing some things about myself. And this is one of the things that I have not shared previously. At least I don't think I have. I might have mentioned it maybe in passing or something like that. But one of my hobbies that I've had for a long time is cake decorating. And the reason I haven't really shared much about it is because ever since my health problems started, and especially my vision problems, I am legally blind, for those of you that do not know that. It's been much more difficult for me to decorate cakes. I told myself I wasn't going to get emotional about this, but it's still a little raw. So I took a period of time for a couple of years that I really didn't do anything with it. And then a few years ago, with all of the medical bills piling up and things like that, my husband suggested that I could try to sell some cakes to help at least a little bit offset some of our costs. And so I started doing that, and mostly for people that he works with. And some of my cakes have been pretty popular, but mostly because they taste good, not really so much because of the beautiful decorations, because I'll be honest, my decorating is not what it used to be. So my husband mentioned a while back that he thought I should make some videos about cake decorating, and I really didn't want to. It is something that I'm still kind of self-conscious about. That I can't make things look the way I want them to. And so I decided that I would start out with maybe just doing some baking videos and sharing some of my recipes and things like that with you guys. And then maybe from there we'll see if we want to get into any of the decorating part of it. So today what I wanted to share with you, I am actually working on 2 cakes right now. I've got one that he's going to be taking to work tomorrow, and then I've got another one that he will be taking to work on Friday. Today is a Wednesday that I'm filming this. And so today I am baking the cake for the one that he'll be taking on Friday, because I'm going to bake it today and then decorate it tomorrow, and then he'll be taking it on Friday, of course. So I wanted to share this one with you, and like I said, we'll just see what happens after that. This particular recipe is probably one of my most popular cake flavors that people ask for, and it's called Snickerdoodle Cake. Now our family, when I was not, I would say not when I was growing up, but when we were all kind of still living at home, our family started making Snickerdoodle cookies, and we kind of became well known for those cookies. Everybody loved them, and anytime we went somewhere where people were supposed to bring food, they would say, "Are you guys bringing those Snickerdoodle cookies?" So when I came across a recipe for a Snickerdoodle cake, I knew that this needed to be a cake that I would make. Now, the original recipe that I found is not the one that I use now. This is kind of, I've tweaked it and come up with my own version. So I'm going to adjust the camera so that you can see the bowl, and I will show you what I use, and let's bake a cake. Okay, now we're ready to get started. This tends to be a little controversial, but I start the majority of my cakes with a cake mix. Some people hate that. I've had people actually tell me, after tasting one of my cakes, I've had people make comments like, oh, I love that your cake is homemade. I can always tell a homemade cake from a box cake mix. And so I think that's kind of funny. So anyway, I always start with a box cake mix, and I always use Betty Crocker cake mixes that I have just found that I get the best results from those. So these particular ones are super moist, and they're just a white cake. Now for this cake, you can use a white cake, you can use a yellow cake, any kind of like vanilla flavored cake is going to be just fine. Now I am making a large sheet cake, so I've got 2 cake mixes in here. If you wanted to try this recipe just with 1 cake mix, of course you'll be cutting the ingredients in half. So right here I've just got my dry cake mixes. Now, one of my secret ingredients that I add to every one of my cakes, and even if you get a cake mix that says it has pudding in the mix, I still add pudding. For each cake mix, I add 1 box of instant pudding. There's all different flavors. You can change up the flavor of your cake a little bit just by using different flavors of pudding. For this particular one, I'm using French vanilla. And for the Snickerdoodle cake, I do prefer the French vanilla. I can't really put my finger on what the difference is, but I just feel like it does have a little bit of a different flavor from just a basic vanilla pudding. So I usually do use the French vanilla. So, like I said, I'm using 2 cake mixes, so I'm using 2 packages of pudding. Make sure it's the instant pudding, not the cook and serve kind. And you just add it dry to your dry cake mix. And then I go ahead and mix it up just a little bit to kind of incorporate the pudding into the cake mix. And then what is going to make this a Snickerdoodle cake is adding cinnamon. Now most of the recipes I had found when I was originally looking at Snickerdoodle cake recipes, they would add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, for the whole cake. I add 2 teaspoons of cinnamon for each cake mix. So for this cake, I'm using 2 mixes. I'm putting in 4 teaspoons of cinnamon. And that makes it a very, very strong cinnamon flavor. And then just the same thing, we're going to kind of just stir that in to incorporate the cinnamon a little bit into our dry ingredients. Now, what I was going to say about using a cake mix, if you prefer not to use a cake mix, you definitely could use your favorite homemade cake recipe and then just add the cinnamon and even add the pudding if you would like. The pudding works well in a homemade cake, just like it does in a cake mix. So then what we're going to do is just follow the directions on the cake mix as far as adding our eggs, oil, and water, or follow the directions on your recipe, add your wet ingredients. So I'm not going to show you that. That's basic. You can figure that out. So I'm going to come back in a minute. I'll have my batter mixed up. All right. So now our cake batter is all ready. We are ready to prepare the pan and get that in there. Now, obviously you can grease and flour your pan, but what I have found that works amazing is this Baker's Joy spray. And it's sort of similar to like a Pam cooking spray, but this has the grease and the flour in the spray. It is so easy. I have never had a cake stick when I use this spray. So this is what I always use. So you're just going to spray the entire pan. And you're ready to go. Just like that. So that's the best part. It's so easy. All right, so now here is our cake batter. You can see that it's got a nice brown color from all the cinnamon. And you may notice that there's lumps in there. That is not a problem. Those are going to bake out. And you do not want to overbeat a cake batter because that will make your cake come out tough. So it's better to undermix it and go ahead and leave those little lumps in there. But they're going to bake out just fine. And I mean, honestly, when you're looking at it right now, it probably looks horrible. But that's going to bake out and it's just going to be perfect when it comes out of the oven. Okay, then we are going to bake this. One other trick that I have found is to lower the oven temperature by 25 degrees from what is called for on the recipe. So for instance, my package says to bake it at 350. I'm going to bake it at 325. And I feel like that helps to keep the cake from getting so dry. So we're going to get this in the oven and I will show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay guys, so I'm back to show you the finished cake. It is actually the next day because I got really busy last night and didn't get to come back and show you. But I just wanted to show you how I kind of finish out with the baking process. I'm not going to show you like decorating or anything like that today. So the thing I really love about using that Baker's Joy spray for the pan is that I can actually leave the cake in the pan. I left it in the pan to cool. You can see it's still in the pan. If you grease and flour the pan and then you leave the cake in there, it's most likely going to stick because your shortening is going to kind of solidify when it cools. But with the spray, you don't have to worry about that. So I like to leave my cake in the pan if I can. Now sometimes I might be making more than one cake at a time, and so I have to take it out of the pan so that I can bake the next cake. But this time I only had one, so I left it in the pan to cool, and that way all of the moisture has stayed inside the cake. So I just, once it was cool, I covered it up and left it in there overnight. And now you can see my finished cake. It's ready to take out and start decorating. And then the last thing I was going to show you is when I do a cake, of course I use the cake boards. This is just cardboard, and you can buy ready-made cake boards. They sell them like at Walmart or of course any kind of cake decorating store. And I usually use the ones from Wilton. Those are the most commonly found. We went to Walmart and they did not have any. And the last 2 times we've been to Walmart, they did not have any of the cake boards in stock. So this time I actually had to make my own, just cut out of some old boxes. So that always works, but I generally use the ready-made ones just because it's easier. They're already cut to the size that I need. And then what I cover my cake boards with is I have used a plastic tablecloth, just the really thin, you know, cheap. They're usually less than $1 at Walmart. And they work so well for covering the cake boards because if you get any icing on it, it'll just wipe right up. They're food safe already, so they are perfect. I've done this for years with the tablecloths, and they just work great because you can usually find whatever color you want, or you can just use white. This time I'm using black because that's actually going to go along with the colors that I'm using for the cake. I've even used pattern ones. I've used like a zebra print. For birthday cakes, I'll use sometimes the ones with like balloons all over and things like that. So there's just a really nice variety of designs and colors that you can use. So that's it for this video. I'll probably be making some more videos about different cake things, baking recipes. I've got actually several cake recipes that I have created myself, and I may be sharing some of those. I haven't really decided yet, so we'll see. If you're new here, I would love to have you subscribe to my channel. I share a lot of like DIYs and crafts and decorating and that kind of thing, kind of branching out now into some baking and things like that. But we would love to have you subscribe. Thanks for watching this video, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.